All right, there we go. Another video, this time German history. Let's go.
Hello, everyone,
Hello.
and welcome to Mr. This is Europe, and here's Germany. Now let's go, shall we? Long ago, before there was a Deutschland, there was just the land, which back then
Makes
had even
sense.
more trees on it. And into the misty forests stepped tribes of mammoth hunters and
And also Romans who got smashed by Germans.
musicians? Yes, the oldest musical instruments in the world are from Germany. Flutes
No way.
carved from ivory and swan bones,
Seriously?
found in Baden-Württemberg. What did they play? Rock music. Skipping through the centuries, we spy the influence of Indo-European
music.
arrivals, as
You
various
got it, yeah?
cultures of craftsmen, farmers, shepherds, and warriors appear. The Germanic people seem to have originated as such in Scandinavia, and in the wake of the Nordic Bronze Age, migrated south, and sooner or later ended up running into the Romans, who thought that
We all are Vikings, guys. Vikings took over everything. Also Germany, also England. Oh my gosh. I think I heard that Vikings were the first who opened up America, discovered America.
the Germans nothing but primitive savages, but they did fear them. While generals like Julius Caesar and Germanicus slaughtered their fair share of Odin worshippers, one of Rome's biggest military catastrophes occurred in AD 9, when the Germans under Arminius decimated 3 Roman legions in the Battle of Teutoburg Forest. And from
Oh,
that
yes.
point, Rome's expansion beyond the Rhine was pretty much halted, and they never conquered all Germania. So years passed, and as Rome slowly weakened, and as the Huns stormed in from the east, Germanic tribes like the Goths began overrunning the empire, and
Oh.
it fell at last in 476. The
I didn't know that Goths were Germanic. My gosh, Germany has a long history. Goodness gracious, Lord, man.
tumultuous time of migration, invasion, and city sacking steadily subsided, and some semblance of order returned to Western Europe with the rise of the Franks. The Franks were a cluster of Germanic clans whose power ballooned upon being united by Clovis around the year 500, and his espousal of Catholic Christianity foreshadowed the gradual acceptance of that faith by all the Germanic peoples. Frankish might attained its peak with Charlemagne, whose dominions covered much of modern-day Germany. The empire of Charlemagne was split among his grandsons, with the German bit going to Louis the German. I mean, who else? And it was from this slice that the Holy
Louis
Roman
the
Empire
German.
was born in earnest in 962, with Otto the
Yes.
Great, who stopped Hungarian invaders and married his way into Italy and was crowned emperor by the Pope. The reason
Oh
this
my
inflated German
gosh.
state was called the Holy Roman Empire was because it was deemed defender of Italy and the Roman Catholic Church. And this Holy Roman Empire would exist for many centuries, but not as some unified singular entity, but rather as an intricate complex
Look how many like independent states there was in this German territory. This was crazy. The whole Polish Roman Empire.
of
Let's call it
states,
like that.
principalities, dukedoms, counties, bishoprics, margraviates, lordships,
Yes.
and estates.
Yeah,
And
this
yes,
is
there
crazy.
were power struggles and quarrels. The empire was strengthened and further enriched under Friedrich I, whom the Italians called Barbarossa, meaning
Yes.
Redbeard, but the Germans called him Rotbart, meaning Redbeard. Meanwhile, the Germans were
And Latvians called him Sarkanabarda.
pushing east across the river Elbe to the lands inhabited by pagan Slavs called the Wends. German settlers moved in, and the Slavic culture there slowly disintegrated. German dominance of commerce in the Baltic came about with the Hanseatic League, a confederation of northern cities with mutual mercantile mindsets, such as Lübeck and Hamburg. With increasing wealth came culture, as it typically does, and you had Minnesingers like Walter von der Vogelweide singing love songs, and the epic poem, the Nibelungenlied, about the dragon-slaying hero Siegfried and his formidable wife Kriemhild. Now to the east, in this spot here,
Brunhilda.
dwelt a pagan populace called the Old Prussians, and the emperor gave the go-ahead to conquer it, a task undertaken in the Prussian Crusade, led by the German Teutonic Knights, who gobbled up Prussian land.
Yes. Look, this is the territory of Latvia right now. We have a lot of Livonian castles here in Latvia, and also here in Ventspils, here in Sigulda, nearby rivers, and this is fascinating to see, to touch the history like that. If not those castles, I would never believe that back in the day some Germans took over Latvia. We are a great country. We're very big. We're like 1.5 million, 1.8 million people. Nobody can take us over.
and then went further, ultimately carving out a big Baltic bit of territory, and thus making a German state outside of Germany, Prussia, which became rich and strong. The 1300s was a bitter time of famine and Black Death, but amid the recovery in the ensuing century, a number of world-altering things took place in German lands. Politically, there was the Austrian Habsburg family taking the wheel of the Holy Roman Empire in 1452, under which dynasty the empire grew immensely powerful. But before that, a goldsmith called Johannes Gutenberg invented a printing press that changed the world. Now books could be produced faster and cheaper than ever before.
Right. Germans invented the printing press. That's right. Oh my goodness, how could I forget about that?
Ideas could spread rapidly and to more people, and they did. In 1517, Pope Leo X needed money to fund his glorious rebuilding of St. Peter's Basilica and promoted a campaign of selling indulgences, basically telling people if they gave money, their loved ones would suffer less in purgatory and get to heaven quicker. A fellow called Johann
such a scam. It was such a scam. Oh my goodness. Imagine like you killed a lot of people. You just basically robbed the bank. And then you just decided, okay, I'm just gonna buy indulgence and I'm gonna be free. And you buy it, you buy maybe 10 of them, and you're free. Man, that's such a scam.
Particularly zealous in his efforts on behalf of the Pope, and attracted the attention of a hot-headed priest and professor of theology at Wittenberg called Martin Luther. Luther was disgusted by the whole thing and publicly denounced it, and his arguments were mass-printed and spread, and his doctrinal disputes with Rome soon became political. You see, many of the princes and so on in German lands did not like being limited by the church, and they saw in Luther's call for Reformation a chance at getting more complete power in their regions, and more money. The Emperor Charles V ruled a gigantic realm and did not relish the prospect of division, and Luther was summoned but refused to renounce his beliefs, and so we have the beginning of the split.
If I'm not wrong, Charles V was from Habsburgs, yes? And look how ugly he was. He was really ugly, and Habsburgs had a big problem because they were marrying their own family, you know, and when you make kids with family, you get very like bad quality kids, you know. So this was like with every generation, it went worse and worse, you know. This is what I heard. Maybe it's not correct, of course. Correct me if I'm wrong in comment section.
Charles V ruled a gigantic realm and did not relish the prospect of division, and Luther was summoned but refused to renounce his beliefs, and so we have the beginning of the split of the Western Church and the inception of Protestantism. Prussia became the first state to officially adopt Protestantism, and thus shuffle off the authority of the Pope. Other states followed, and the Holy Roman Empire was denominationally divided. There was unease on both sides for a long time, but after a Catholic started pushing Protestants about in Bohemia, the Protestants fought back and things escalated into what would become the 30 Years' War. Religion started it, but politics kept it going. France wanted to weaken Habsburg's strength, and thus supporting Protestant powers even though it was Catholic. This was among the most devastating wars in history, with millions of people killed. While the Holy Roman Empire weakened, a new power arose in Prussia, which became a kingdom in 1701 and grew stronger, as seen with Frederick the Great, who further reformed the state and army into Europe's most efficient, and went out and conquered Silesia from Austria, which led to...
Yeah, I heard his nickname was the Soldier. Basically, he was such a strict dude, you know. Well, you need to be strict dude to do like these kind of transformations in army.
War, and Prussia emerged triumphant, Frederick smashing the Austrians and French at Horsbach, despite being heavily outnumbered. Prussia's ascent coincided with a time of immense German cultural accomplishment, especially in music, and pretty much all the greatest composers are German. Bach, Handel, Beethoven, Schumann, Brahms, Wagner, Strauss. For a long time, French culture had dominated Europe, but the Germans started searching deeper into their own souls to express themselves, and what they found were the seeds of the Romantic movement. Intense emotion, angst, storm, and stress. Europe was swept up in this artistic outburst, which was in large part a rage against encroaching modernity. But it was futile. The world was growing less romantic and more mechanical. Don't worry, the Germans would prove to be good at that too. Now the whole...
What they would say about the time that we are living right now, about the mechanical, yes? We basically live in some kind of other dimension where there are social media, where there are influencers, where there is like news and information coming into us from everywhere, literally everywhere. And nowadays, if you can be yourself, that's like a big achievement. If you understand that your thoughts is your decision, not somebody else's decision, you know, because you get bombarded by the decisions, by information, and if you're weak, you're gonna eat it, I think.
Holy Roman Empire was dismantled in 1806 by Napoleon, and the following decades would see the Industrial Revolution hammer its way into the German lands. With the fast-altering world of factories and steam trains and muddled political, economic, societal shifting alongside continental famine, the German states were set ablaze in 1848 by revolution, seeking reform and the union of German states. When the rebellions were crushed, many unhappy Germans migrated to the United States, and today over 40 million Americans are of German descent. Meanwhile,
40
Prussia was getting strong
million,
again,
my
and setting itself up
God.
as the state to take charge of the German world.
Yeah.
Prussia's Otto von Bismarck determined to make this a reality. He was a clever, ambitious man who, through quick wars and shrewd diplomacy, bolstered Prussia's standing, and after defeating France in 1871, he
And also Bismarck loved to play cards. That's what I know.
succeeded in unifying the German states under Prussian leadership, and the German Empire was born, and for the first time there was a single nation on the map that you could point to and say, that's Germany. Germany became, after the US, the world's foremost industrial power. But the European chessboard grew more tense, and as nations strengthened, they began to fear each other. Bismarck knew France wanted revenge, and did not want them allying with Austria, while Russia was expanding in the east, and Britannia ruled the waves. In 1882, Germany,
Man,
Austria, and
this
Italy
is
entered into an
crazy.
alliance, promising to help each other if attacked. Kaiser Wilhelm II wanted Germany to be a colonial power and oversaw
And also, let's not forget that Wilhelm was a cousin. Yeah, he was a cousin of Nicholas II and the George III King of United Kingdom. You know, so basically they were all family, and family was ruling the major countries of the Europe, which is crazy if you think about it, man. The world back in the day, it was a crazy place. Now it's crazy also, you know. It's crazy how some people get to the power, man. It's crazy. But back then, if you go into the power, there's a big chance that you will keep it because you're gonna give it to your family, to your kids or somebody, you know. Man, that was and for people who like was born in a country, they didn't had any like chance to learn, you know. If you didn't had any money, you didn't had any chance to learn, to become smarter and educate yourself, you know. And then your whole life you have to live poor, basically. That was the thing back in the day, man.
the snatching up of various bits of Africa. Germany also became the world's center of science. Breakthroughs in physics, chemistry, and biology coincided with the Germans inventing the automobile, motorbike, diesel engine, X-rays, and gummy bears. Then, in 1914, the heir to the Austrian throne was shot dead by a Serb, setting off a diplomatic crisis, and it all spiraled into World War I. And while the Germans put up a very tough fight, beating Russia on the Eastern Front, the Western Front saw Germany up against France, Britain, Belgium, and later the United States, which proved too much. An armistice was signed, a socialist revolution forced the Kaiser to abdicate, and many Germans simply refused to believe they had lost, thinking they'd been betrayed. Government debt added to demanded reparations equaled economic crisis.
Yeah.
Enter Adolf Hitler, an Austrian who had fought in the Great War. Hitler believed Germany had been stabbed in the back and blamed the communists and the Jews. Hitler quickly became the leader of the National Socialist German Workers'
Well, I wouldn't say that he quickly became a leader. He had some power struggles, yes. The famous, I think it was putsch in in Bavaria, no, somewhere there, where like his fellow this dude German Goering, he got shot over there, and then he became like an addict of like this drugs that helps to release the pain. Basically, what I'm trying to say, it was not quick, like literally.
Party. His immense speaking skills employed in passionate speeches, winning him a popularity that surged after the Great Depression, when the fun and games of the Weimar era expired and hard times surfaced. Hitler became Chancellor in 1933, and after some murderous maneuverings managed to win himself dictatorial powers. Germany's economy improved, autobahns were built, and in 1938 Austria joined Germany. But Hitler wanted more land.
Austria joined Germany? Wait. Did they really join them, or it was occupied? That's the question.
Of getting more in Poland that World War II began, the biggest and most destructive in history. It was Germany, Italy, and Japan against the world. Germany proving especially strong with its frightfully effective Wehrmacht, occupying most of Europe. And in the midst of the war, the hated Jews were rounded up and put in camps.
Yes, I was in Krakow, in Auschwitz, and it was terrifying. There's a big, like a lot of barracks over there. Yeah, that was terrifying place. Very, very sad to see. I was almost crying when I was there. especially when I was in Birkenau. I was walking down these places where I saw a lot of hair, human hair, a lot of their belongings, and how people were treated made me feel very sad, that people can treat people like that. That's very sad. I almost started to cry literally over there.
Many were executed or died of disease along with other undesirables like Poles and Roma in what is called the Holocaust, millions of deaths and endless sorrow. But Hitler's doom was sealed when he made the same mistake Napoleon made. He invaded Russia. Furious lost battles like Stalingrad and Kursk, the unrelenting British and the arrival of the Americans
and
meant
Moscow.
the Third Reich was known.
And Moscow, it was like they lost a big amount of people in Moscow, and it was from there they starting to lose, from after the Battle of Moscow.
More. The war saw Europe torn to pieces, and while the movies give the idea that it was a basic battle of good versus evil, it just wasn't that simple. There wasn't much heroism in what the Soviet soldiers did to women and girls in East Germany, and there wasn't much bravery in the British-American bombing of Dresden and its civilians. After the war, Germany ended up split in two, the East influenced by the Soviet...
I don't know why this dude brings up these facts about bad behavior towards civilians, about bombarding of Dresden, because it's war, and horrifying things. Nazis did also horrifying things in Russia and occupied territory, and that's what like Soviets did also, and Americans did. So it's war.
Union and the West by the West, which under Konrad Adenauer lost no time in recovering and rebuilding and reflourishing. As communism declined, the Berlin Wall went down and Germany was united again and took up a leading role in the European Union in policy and treaty and so on. Germany today is one of the top richest countries in the world, with a very high Human Development Index rank, a very high standard of living, and a knack for technological and industrial innovation. Germany has given most plentifully in literature, science, philosophy, sport, and music. Not bad for a country whose fairy tales for children are more violent than most horror films. What awaits Germany in future days? Comment below, but for now, bye-bye!
Alright guys, let me know, what do you agree with or you don't agree with this dude? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. See you next reaction videos.